Vandersloot gives it up. Parker to tie. You bet. Here's the 0-1. This is going to be a tough play. The Cubs. Finds Rose. Rose trying to get open. Fires away. Bang! It's over. The Bulls win at the buzzer. DeRozan to win it! Goal! DeMar DeRozan delivers! Anderson hits it in the air to right. Back at the wall, and the White Sox win it! Big one-way field stumbling. Trying to cut it back. Justin Fields making magic happen. There goes Fields. Touchdown! Who will receive it first after it is hoisted by the captain? Will it be the 40-year-old defenseman who has longed for this moment? Yes, sir. Walking right, Chicago! Woo!
What is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes, and you are listening to Mike on the Mic and Everything Chicago Sports-related podcast. Today, we have another interview back-to-back. We just had Luke Smith on the other night from Louisville, and today we are having a fan favorite of mine. I mean, I love watching this guy's game. I love everything he does for the Chicago Cubs organization. Catcher, 27-year-old of the Tennessee Smokies, Caleb Knight. Caleb, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, how's it going? Happy to be here. Really looking forward to it.
We're doing good, and I'm sure everybody just tuned in right now and saw it just wasn't me talking all day, so I'm sure they're a lot more ecstatic than I am. But getting right into it, man, what's up? What's new? I know it's a new season. I know there's so many different things we're going to get into today, but we just want to see how you're doing going into the 2023 season.
Man, doing great. Things have been really good. We just wrapped up spring training in Arizona. Got out there about February 12th and been out there grinding away and getting everything ready to go for the season. So we just got back out here to Knoxville. So starting the year here in AA, and we got into town 2 days ago and had a workout yesterday, workout today, and then opening up the season tomorrow. So looking forward to that. All the guys are excited, and we're ready to get going here.
Man, it was one of those off seasons that it just felt different. It felt a lot different. A lot more guys were getting invited to spring training. You know, we get the PCAs of the world. Brennan Davis is healthy. Matt Mervis, who we were even talking about a year ago, you know, no one was talking about. No one even. It was Bryce Ball, which all respect to Bryce Ball, but it was Bryce Ball, and that was it for the first baseman pipeline. Now we got Mash out here doing his own thing. And Caleb, I want to ask you, before we get into you and your story and who you are, just for spring training, since it's on the topic, this was the first time in a long time that there was a real conversation about the catching position for the Cubs during spring training. We got Miguel Amayas of the world, the Caleb Knights. What was that like for you? And I'm not asking you to say, hey, I'm excited that Wilson's gone, but, you know, was it an energetic feeling knowing, hey, there's this spot open now in the Windy City and it's going to be a dogfight to see who gets it?
Yeah, no, it's definitely changed our perspective a lot. Because I mean, when you had Wilson up there, you know, who's an all-star and everything, and I mean, it just kind of at the end of the day, there wasn't a whole lot of hope, you know, that somebody was going to break through and be that everyday guy up there. But yeah, with him being gone, it definitely has changed the atmosphere in the catching group, and there's a lot of guys that are ready to step up and, you know, give it everything they got to compete and go try to win that job.
For sure. Now getting into you, man, just like breaking that down. I saw, and I want you to correct me. I want you to correct me because I wanted to make sure I said it right. My sister lives in Oklahoma as well. I know you're born and raised there. Should say it for me. How do you say it?
Shakota.
That's exactly. See, that's what I was gonna say, and I was like, I didn't want to mess it up, so I tried all day long figuring out how to say it. Couldn't figure it out for the life of me. But Chakota, Oklahoma, man, tell me what that's like. What's baseball atmosphere like down there, and just growing up in general?
Man, Chakota is my town. I absolutely love that place, and I would not have traded it for anything growing up. But Chakota's a town of about 3,000 people. Well, we're probably closer to 4,000 now. We've been growing a little bit, but Carrie Underwood is from my hometown. She's really the only big name other than a bunch of people in the rodeo world. But
Can I ask
she,
really quick? Can I ask? I've heard so many people from Oklahoma say that. Is that like the stamp of approval right there? Is like you have to bring up Carrie Underwood if you're talking Oklahoma?
yeah, I mean, she's definitely one of our biggest stars right now. And I mean, especially my town, we're really proud of her. And I grew up. We went to the same church growing up, and even after she won American Idol, we have a gym at my house, and she would come and run on the treadmill and work out in the gym at my house. So that was pretty cool growing up, being able to get home from school and go out and see her out there. That was really neat. But yeah, she's definitely a staple of not only Oklahoma but especially our town. She's done a lot for the schools and started like a dog shelter in the town, which is really neat, and done a whole lot for us. We really are proud of her. But no, I mean, small little town. Heck, growing up, we only had one stoplight for the longest time, but we just got a Walmart Supercenter a few years back, so we had to add a few more stoplights to handle all that traffic. But no, it's the best. Live right on. So I actually live in a rural area about 10-15 minutes outside of my town, and right on a lake. We grew up on about 100 acres. We had cattle and horses growing up, so that was always fun, and got to just be outside a lot. I mean, a real different lifestyle. And a lot of the guys we're around and with here, it's just small town stuff. Not a whole lot to do. Not many restaurants to go to, and it was working out, working cows and stuff all summer, and playing sports. That was really about all we had. Lake sports and working out around the house. So I started playing baseball when I was about 4 years old in Shakota. We had a little league, and it was just, I mean, it was you and all your friends and kids you went to school with. There's probably 4 or 5 teams in the league, and we just went out and played each other all summer. And really, it's crazy how much times have changed, but I never played really the travel ball like you see kids playing nowadays. So I played in my town's little league until I was probably 10 or 12, and then we started playing in a league in a town about 30 minutes north that was a little bit bigger, a little bit better competition, but it was like every town had their team, and we would just play neighboring towns. But and then I would say 14 and under, I started playing a little bit more travel ball. We would heck travel an hour to a tournament every weekend. That was about as far as we went. We would travel around here and there, and then really just got into high school from there.
For sure, for
So
sure. And so you kind of hit that on the head right there. That was my next question, was really just breaking down high school ball in general. Because obviously, scouts are everything nowadays, and there's so many showcasings and there's so many different ways you can go about it, whether it's, an AAU team or whatever it may be. How important was high school ball for you? And what was that experience really like? Were you just playing the catching position, or were you all over the place?
yeah, so high school ball was everything to me because, like I said, I mean, we didn't play anything else. That was all we had. And going to such a small high school where I think on our varsity, I mean, we didn't even really have like a true varsity JV team. I think from ninth grade to 12th grade, we might have had 15, 17 kids, and every kid played every sport. So, I mean, you're with the same guys from football to basketball to baseball. So, really, I mean, it was a really neat relationship we all built with each other, but it was different than what you see nowadays and what you see a lot of other kids playing because we all played everything together. And like I said, I mean, I was lucky enough. I started catcher my freshman year, but I caught, I pitched, I played third, first. I mean, anywhere you were needed, just kind of whatever the team did. But I think my senior year as a pitcher, I went 10-0. I think I hold like our school record for winning percentage. So that was always neat. That's something cool to look back on. But yeah, we did it all. We didn't really have a choice.
No, for sure. And I loved it because I looked up what high school you went to, and that's how you know how small of a town it is when it's named after the town. And I thought that was
Hmm.
just the funniest thing in the world. But when it comes to scouts and it comes to really just getting into everything you did at the University of Virginia, what really goes into that? And what were those conversations like? Were you a sophomore, junior, senior, or was it something where you just had to walk on and fight for a spot?
So I had never had any really, I can't tell you one time in high school of truly a scout like ever coming to a game, especially a pro scout. I mean, as far as I knew, there was nothing. And so it all started for me was my senior year. I actually had more football scholarships than I did baseball scholarships, all to like littler schools and stuff. But so my junior or my senior year, it was probably like March or April.
Mhm.
And one of our area JUCOs called Seminole State had called me over and wanted me to come out, and I kind of went out there and went and visited their facilities and stuff, but they didn't really like offer me a scholarship or anything. They were kind of just like, "Hey, we want you to come play," and everything like that. And so, I was excited about that, but I was also like, coming from a middle class family, my parents had told me, they're like, "Hey, if you're going to go to college, you need to find a way to get it paid for, whether it be academics or whether it be sports. Like, we're not going to be able to afford to send you to college. So that's on you." So that was like my motivation all the way through high school. It's like, all right, I'm getting a sports scholarship. Like, it's what I want to do. So, anyways, after I went to that JUCO, then another JUCO, actually that one's rival, called Connor State College. They came and watched me play, and I had a really good game. And he called me over, and he's like, "Hey," he's like, "I want you here. I'll do whatever it takes to get you here." And basically, I mean, full ride scholarship to go there. So that was hands down. That's what I wanted to do. So I signed there in April of my senior year of high school, and never really heard from anything else. No bigger schools, no nothing. So I will say, making that decision was really what like jump started baseball for me, because at Shakota there wasn't a whole lot of tradition, like a whole lot of like
Right.
not many people went to college. I mean, as far as I know in baseball, nobody before me had went to college and played that I knew of or done anything. No at the D1 level, like nobody, and no pro guys that I can even tell you of, like in the whole history. My senior year, our team went to the state tournament for the first time ever, and that was a whole lot of fun. But yeah, so just not a whole lot of tradition there. Nobody really expected anybody to go play baseball from my hometown. So I feel like even from a scouting perspective, it was kind of, we never really got looked at or anything like that. But so I ended up going to Connor State, and I mean that's when my love for the game really took off. I mean, we have a coach there. His name is Perry Keith, and he's been there probably 50 years now, and had a tremendous amounts of success.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, going there, and that guy was just not. It wasn't so much the baseball stuff, because I feel like I was pretty well rounded from a baseball aspect, but just the love and compassion he had for the game, and he made you love all your teammates. And it was neat too, because going there, and it was in Warner, Oklahoma, which was even a smaller town than Shakota. It's a town of probably about 2,500 people,
Mm-hmm.
and there is nothing there. So he would bring in guys from, so crazy. I actually played with Jared Young at my junior college.
Really?
Yeah, he transferred in my sophomore year and was our second baseman.
That's
So
crazy.
we played together there, then played against each other. He was at Old Dominion, I was at Virginia, and then we came
Mhm.
back together on the Cubs. But
That's wild.
that's something we can talk about later. But yeah. So it was just lots of foreign guys. We had lots of Dominicans, some Puerto Ricans, and it was just a big, like, our coach always called it the melting pot, because
Mm.
you bring all these different walks of life people into Warner, Oklahoma, and and all we had was each other. So that's when I really learned to like love the guys and how to be a good teammate and just how to play the game. And it was sure special to me, and was definitely my favorite place in the world. And I couldn't, if I got to choose to go back and play 1 year of baseball somewhere, it would be right there at Connor State. So that was definitely a blessing for me. And if I went back, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wouldn't go D1 out of high school. I probably wouldn't even want to go in the draft out of high school. Those were the two best years of my life. So I'm very, very thankful for that place and everything they did for me. But so yeah, from there on, I had a really good freshman year, and then sophomore year had another really good year. I had some draft talk after my freshman year, but nothing really came through, so that just gave me more motivation going into my sophomore year. Had a great job, and then had lots and lots of colleges, D1s calling, and got to go visit a few different ones. And then, I mean, decided on Virginia because they just won the national championship the year prior,
Right.
and I went out there and absolutely fell in love with that place. So yeah, that was kind of my road there, and that's how I ended up there.
And for Virginia, was it a tone setter for you, where you kind of learned like, hey, listen, like it's completely understandable to kind of have that chip on your shoulder, where there's a bunch of guys out of there that come from these small towns. I feel like I don't know how they do it. They just pick these guys out the middle of the woods and then just say, hey man, these guys throw 95 plus, and no other scout in the world, there's no Vanderbilts, no Tennessees are finding these guys. And I always felt that was very interesting, because they really do go out of their way to find people. So for you, was that kind of important for you when you saw a bunch of guys, and like you said, from all walks of life, just kind of coming together? And rather than, you see your typical, I love the Tennessee Volunteers, Caleb, I can't lie to you, that's my
Mhm.
team. But a lot of guys, the Evan Russells of the world, they're all homegrown guys, and that's kind of how they operate. So for you, how important was that that they were willing to take a chance on a bunch of people from a bunch of different places.
Yeah, I mean, that was huge for me because I was so thankful for Virginia too, because they genuinely, and even just transferring in as a junior college guy and jumping into, because they didn't take a lot of junior college guys because it was so hard to transfer into the school because they didn't take a lot of credits, and it was a big long process to even get transferred in there, and so they don't really do it to a lot of people. But having those guys like that, and Virginia, it's like their primary focus when they recruited wasn't your baseball talent. It was what kind of person are you, you know?
Mhm.
And they really sold out to that. And I mean, you could tell from the success and the tradition they have there that they just love bringing in good people. So that made my life so much easier, you know, transferring in. Those guys took me right in and treated me like family. And it was like I was able to kind of just continue that same passion for the game that I had at Connors. And yeah, I mean, it was a different world at Virginia. You know, everything was just those top notch guys. That's what a lot of guys talk about all the time. There's so many big leaguers that were on that team when I was there, and heck, I'm lucky enough right now to be with two teammates, Andy Weber and Derek Casey, who I've been with for the past few years. And man, that was really a blast. And they always have good people in there, and I love being able to say I was a part of that program.
For sure, for sure. And there's one thing I do want to ask you, because you talked about us running around by the lake and talked about us having cattle. And it's, I want a real answer. I don't want no modesty. I don't want you just holding it in. I need a real answer here. Do you have any siblings, Caleb?
Yes, I do.
All right. So this is a genuine question. Best athlete in the family right now. Who is it?
Best athlete in the family, honestly, my little sister. But
Really?
so I was always kind of I would say the lucky one as far as sports wise. But I mean, my little brother, poor kid, he was a late bloomer. He's probably the most physically fit out of us. He's like 3 or 4 inches taller than me and just chiseled up. And he
Really?
actually is in Navy SEAL training right now and just finished up Hell Week. And so he's been proven really a lot in his life lately, and I've been so proud of him. But hands down, the most physically gifted is my little sister. She's
What,
a heck of an athlete and can do it all.
what was she? Well, if you had to not to put her in a box, but like best sport she was good at, what do you think that would be?
I would say her best sport was softball. So during
Really?
COVID, when we got sent home, I actually was lucky enough. They hired me as an assistant coach at my high school for the softball team. So she was a sophomore at the time. She's a senior this year, but she was a sophomore at the time, and she was my catcher.
Mm.
So she had older brother coaching her as a catcher, and I mean, she could have had all the opportunities in the world in softball, but she reeled it in and wanted to do a cheerleading. So she actually just got a scholarship to my JUCO as well, the same one, Connor State, as a cheerleader. So that's
Yeah.
the route she decided to take. But she's in track and field right now, got a good chance to go qualify for state in the long jump. And I mean, yeah, she's got it all. It's pretty neat.
Dude, that's super dope. I know you talked about that a little bit with COVID and everything. I know we're jumping around a little bit, but so many guys have so many different stories. And it's kind of how we started this podcast over here was during COVID. Got tired of not talking to anybody. I was just talking to myself all day. So I said, forget it. We're gonna talk somewhere. So I talked to Brennan and Matt and a bunch of other guys. There were side A's, side B's. Some guys just went home. What was that experience like for you? And outside of just coaching softball, how did you stay physically fit we really had no idea when the next time we were going to get called up to come back and play. It was kind of just like, we'll call you when we call you.
Yeah, so it was kind of, I would say, scary at first because being from such a rural area of Oklahoma, I didn't have a whole lot of access to different kind of things, which luckily I had a gym at my house and I
Mm,
had a pasture. So between having the gym, my dad is retired law enforcement and he was a big gym freak growing up. So he used to have a gym in my hometown. Then he got tired of doing that before we were born. He moved it out to my house. So we have a like full everything you could ever need gym right next to our house. So I was so blessed in that aspect to have that right next to my home where I could go out there every day and get my workouts and stuff in. But as far as the baseball stuff come, my brother played college baseball for a little bit, so I had him to play catch with and everything. But we had bought an L screen and we had a cage, and we would go hit in the cage. And sometimes I would take the L screen out in the backyard, and I'd have my brother and my dad flipping me balls, tossing me balls, and we would hit them all out into the pasture. Then we get the 4-wheeler and go get them all. So it was, like I said, it was scary at first, but then once we kind of just adapted and just kind of, hey, this is what we got to do, and we're going to make the best out of it, and we did it. But I am a huge family man, love my family to death, and I mean, they were with me out there every day, shagging balls, catching balls, and COVID at the time, it felt like it kinda sucked, but looking back at it, that was like I hadn't had a year at home during the summer,
Mhm.
and I don't know how long. I mean, and we got to spend I mean, we were at the lake every single day out on the boat, and just between that and just the family time and just it really just reeled us all back in together, and that was something so crazy that you probably will never get again in this life, and it was really neat to have that year in the middle of everything to all be together.
Was I'm obviously in Chicago, so
Mhm,
COVID was like a yo. We have a lockdown. We had a former mayor, Lori Lightfoot. She said, "If I see any of y'all outside the house at 8 p.m., that's your ass." And that was what it was. Now,
mhm.
obviously, I'm at the time 20 years old. We were out there going crazy, doing whatever. But for you in such a small town, what is COVID? What was that experience like? Do a lot of people like have COVID? Because I know a lot of people kind of just do their own thing. A lot of people don't see each other. Was it really bad where you were, or was it kind of just like you would hear about it here and there?
So, yeah, I mean, honestly, nothing really changed for us. I mean, school
Mhm.
was out for the summer when it happened. I think they may have taken like 1 month off. They may have closed down early, like when it first hit there in March.
Mhm.
But school started back up in August because that's when I was coaching. And yeah, like I said, nothing really changed. I mean, I remember wearing a mask to go into Walmart, and that was about the only difference was, I mean, nothing, we never
The
closed down.
Walmart, the
Yeah,
one
the
Walmart.
Walmart. That's all we have, nothing else. So no, I mean, nothing changed for us. Everybody kept living life. Everybody kept doing the same thing. A few restaurants that we had like close their insides down. But for the most part, everything was the same. I mean, there was
Yeah,
there was a
I've
whole
heard
lot of,
that.
and yeah,
I've
like
heard
being
that a
from
lot.
rural Oklahoma, people didn't want to change, and we never really had we had I mean, you would hear of people getting it, but we never had anything like mass crazy or anything like that happen. So it was
Right.
definitely different than what you saw in a lot of the big cities.
No, for sure. My buddy, he's one of my best buddies, Isaac. He's from Iowa, and he was telling me, where the field of I forget the town, the Field of Dreams is
Mhm,
out there. And he was telling me, he's like, dude, we did not care, and it's not like to say they're ignorant, but he was like, it's just no one really comes in and out. It's just kind of
mhm.
one of those things where no one really noticed for a while, but getting into it, talking about a little bit of Cubs baseball because I'm sure everybody's really excited about it, and just hearing your story with that. The chip on your shoulder just gets taller and taller and taller. Undrafted free agent. You signed with the Cubs in 2018. Can you kind of break down what the draft experience was like for you, first and foremost? Were there any conversations with teams? Like you said early on, you kind of had a couple ideas, but what were those conversations like, and how did the Cubs come and approach you?
Yeah, so I actually have, like, a really crazy story when it comes to that. So, after my 2017 season at Virginia, I, had I had a really good year. I started playing probably late March because I was coming off a labrum injury. Started playing late March and, was just crushing it. And I mean, played really, really good. And then the last month, I kinda just cooled down and wasn't really happy, and, we ended up going to a regional and getting beat, and, I just felt like I had so much unfinished business.
Mhm.
So I had had some meetings with my coaches and stuff at the end of the year, and, they were wanting me back, told me if I came back, they would fully pay for my school, everything would be covered, I would never have to spend a dime. So that was really tough too, or that was really a big part of it too, was getting to finish my degree. So we had ended up talking, and they wanted to know, like, "Hey, if somebody calls you in the draft, what's gonna be your bottom number?" And I told them my bottom number. My coaches were like, "Hey, we think you're worth more than that," and all that example. So we finally kind of decided on a number together, and the Mets called me in the 11th round, 10th or 11th round, and were like, "Hey, we want to draft you and we want to take you." And it was like 50,000 below my number. And in my head, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like this is my dream right here. Like this is what I want to do. Like I want it." But I had made my word and I had promised them. So I was like, I told the Mets, I was like, "Hey, I was like, this is my number. If you can't match that, then like we'll talk to you later." And they're like, we don't think we'll be able to do it. And I was like, okay. So nothing ended up happening more than that. And then I was going back to Virginia and was totally fine with that. I was happy about it. So went back there and was having an absolutely great senior year, crushing the ball, catching well, like everything was going good. And we're playing down in Miami, I think like towards the end of April. And I've always in my whole career been, for some reason, a ball magnet at the plate.
Mhm.
like always getting hit by pitches. Well, we're playing at Miami, and 3 straight at bats, I got hit by a pitch. And on the third one, it was like a two seam kind of ran in and kind of got me like right on my hitting hand right here and like fractured that bone. And so that happened, and I tried to play through it, and the pain got so bad, I quit catching because I couldn't catch the ball with my left hand. So I
Right.
went, they moved me to first. They'd let me play. I wouldn't take BP or swing all week long and then step in there on Friday night and try to face an ACC starter and play. And it was so tough. And it finally, batting average tanked. I couldn't touch the ball. I was trying to fight through it, and it just got so bad that I eventually just had to like hang it up. So I finally stopped playing and just start rehabbing, trying to get everything healed up. And then season ends, we didn't even make a regional. And I mean, terrible timing. Then here comes the draft, after the year. So I go back home and finally I'm feeling healthy, feeling good again, able to hit and everything. So we get back home and everything's going. And, I'm just praying for an opportunity, just anything to happen in the draft. Draft happens, sit there and watch all 40 rounds, no calls, no nothing. So that was really devastating. But through that process, I had a family friend who actually went to like a rival high school by me who had played some independent ball in Evansville, Indiana. So he was like talking to me. He's like, hey, man, if you don't get any opportunities, I'll talk to my coach. We'd love to have you come out here and everything. So I didn't really want to play indie ball, maybe just from kind of just like a pride perspective,
Right.
I was very disappointed. But then like the drive in me was like, you know what? Like I haven't got to play baseball like for real in half a year now because I've been hurt and I was healthy. So I was like, I'm going to go play this summer. I was like, I'll go out there. I'm going to finish the summer. I'm going to play healthy. If something happens, it does. And if not, we'll see what happens into the summer. So I pack everything up, make the decision. I drive my truck like 10 hours to Evansville, Indiana. I drive out there, move in with the host family, get all set up, go to sleep that night. And I had to wake up the next morning. And I was going to go sign with my team. And get up, I get in the shower, and then I get out of the shower and I look at my phone. I have like 10 missed calls. There's like 3 or 4 from a random number, 3 from one of my coaches at Virginia, 3 from another. So I'm like, what the heck? So I called my head coach at Virginia back, and he's like, hey, said you talked to the Cubs scout? I was like, no. He's like, call him back, and hung up the phone. So like, okay. So I just clicked on the random number and called him back. And the scout answers the phone. He's like, hello, Caleb Knight. Would you like to be a Chicago Cub? I was like, well, heck yeah, you better believe it. He's like, all right, he's like, we want to take you as a free agent and then told all the details and everything. And there I was. So I hung up that phone call, called my parents, called that coach right then with that other team I was supposed to sign with. He was so happy for me, like whatever, and then packed up all my stuff and drove right back home. And that was the quickest 10-hour drive home, it felt like, of my life because I was on the phone the whole time with so many people and just so excited, and just even though it wasn't a draft or the way we may have wanted it to go, it was an opportunity, and that's all I could have asked for. And I mean, looking back on it, I don't know if I would have chose to be with any other org because the Cubs have taken care of me. I mean, through being an undrafted free agent coming in, especially back in those days. Now it's a little different, and kids nowadays don't quite understand because undrafted free agents nowadays are different when there's only, 10, 15, 20 rounds in the draft. That was back when there was 40 rounds, and then the undrafted free agents weren't very respected.
Right.
But being with the Cubs, I mean, I'm one of the only undrafted free agents I can tell you about pre-COVID days left, and they've really taken care of me and just been really good to me, and I'm so thankful for that opportunity, and really wouldn't choose to be with anybody else.
For sure, man. And, I think you hit it on the head right there because there's so many different conversations. I've talked to guys from all around and just breaking down draft night. It's so special for so many people. But for you to think, hey, listen, this is, cards aren't in our favor right now, but we're going to trust the process. And you kept doing what you were doing. You didn't give up. You didn't sulk. And I feel like that's definitely like, I believe in good karma. I believe you do good things and good things happen to you. And that's something just, you drive all the way out there. Like you said, the quickest 10 hours of your life. Cause I'm sure each one of those phone calls probably lasted at least over an hour. So, I mean, it's probably insane. But yeah, man, I mean, my hat's off to you truly, because I didn't even know that about the whole thing before obviously the undrafted signings. But man, breaking that down, and this was my favorite team throughout the entire Cubs organization. Forget the Chicago Cubs in Wrigley Field. Forget the team on Addison. Let's talk about the Eugene Emeralds, the greatest logo that ever was. Talk to my guy Cole Franklin about that. I needed it. I needed a hat. Couldn't hook it up. Needed a hat. But take us through, obviously now and especially throughout 2020, you've made it to every single level outside of the Chicago Cubs organization. What are those experiences have been like for you? And if you had to, Caleb, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Greatest teammate, most athletic, whatever you want to call it. Who have you seen so far where you were just like, damn, this guy can ball?
Oh man. While I'm thinking about that, we can talk about Eugene.
Oh,
Yeah,
I figured that's how it was
yeah,
gonna go.
yeah. No, that place was absolutely phenomenal.
Mhm.
I mean, being the first experience I had in professional baseball, so I flew out to Virginia or to Arizona. I was there for 2 or 3 weeks, and then they're like, "Hey, you're going to." I actually flew into Vancouver for the first series, and that was an awesome place to play in that league. That was really, really neat. There was like 15,000 Canadians at the game, and it was like an old school minor league stadium. It was really neat. But no, the Pacific Northwest definitely won a spot in my heart because I'd never been up there, and who knows, may have never even went up there in my life. But
Yeah.
now it's definitely a place I'm going to take my family someday because that whole town. I mean, we were at the University of Oregon's complex, so it was phenomenal facilities, and the people that showed up for every single game was amazing. And I absolutely loved Eugene. It has probably definitely been one of my favorite affiliates in the whole Cubs organization. I was very sad we lost them when everything switched up. But back on best teammate, hands down, I feel like this is a pretty basic answer, but just the guy who stuck out to me the most would definitely have to be probably Christopher Morel. I
No,
mean,
that's fair. It's definitely
I
fair.
remember I remember my first year of signing. So I went out to Arizona and all the new draft guys were coming in and he was in Eugene and they had just sent him down.
Mhm.
So him being sent down, I remember, I was like, dang, thinking like if I was him, I'd be mad, like I'd be pissed off. And he showed up and that kid just had the biggest smile and was the nicest to everybody every day. But I remember the first day we walked out on a field together, just the tools he had, and heck, he had to be 17, 18 at that time,
Mhm.
hitting balls 500 feet in BP, throwing 100 miles an hour across the infield. It was like, Dad, gone, like, why did this guy get sent down? And it was just, and then being able to just kind of progress through the system with him and just watch what he's done and be part of his journey was just unbelievable. I mean, and even put all the baseball talent, he's by far the most talented baseball player I've ever seen, but put all that aside, just the love and joy that guy brings to the field every day. And I mean, you've seen it how he's been in Chicago. I mean, he
Mhm.
don't change for anybody. He's just the biggest hype man and like the most lovingest guy you will ever meet. And that's such a joy and like to be around, especially baseball, where we're doing this every single day. And that guy shows up to the park every single day, just makes you feel loved and just makes you feel special. And that's something you don't see a lot. And that has really stuck out to me in my career. And he's definitely at the top of my list
Yeah,
for that.
it's something, and maybe you could tell me if you agree or disagree. But when we lost Javi, I said, it's okay. We got his little brother. And a lot of people kind of just looked at me. I was like, yo, this kid's coming. This kid's solid. He's going to be just as energetic. But he reminds me a lot of Javi too in that way. And it's not a negative like taking him, but I think the best thing for Javier Baez in 2014 was actually being sent down, and 2015 kind of spending the rest of that season in Iowa. It was really important because I think Chris is kind of the same way where, he knows he can mash it 500 feet out, but you just got to, let himself season a little bit. We'll come back to it. 2016 happens and the rest is history for Javier Baez. And I'm hoping it's the same for Christopher Morel. Just kind of, go back down there, get back to the basics, and hopefully he comes back on top. But I loved your answer because you hit it on the head. And I know you got to go soon. So we'll
No,
wrap it
we're good. We're good. We're good. Don't worry
for
about it.
sure. Okay,
Yeah.
for sure. But I've heard a lot about Christopher Morel, and someone that a lot of people are saying right now who, like you said, 17, 18 years old, throwing 100 miles an hour. Christian Hernandez is starting to be that same exact story. And I wanted to ask if you had any experiences with him yet and what those would have been like.
I haven't a whole lot. I've been around him here and there. I was with him a few times last year in spring training, but yeah, just like I mean, the talent's unbelievable. I mean, it's there, and that kid can be anything he wants to be. But yeah, I mean, like I said, haven't been around him a whole lot, so much from like as a person aspect, but from what I've seen on a baseball field, yeah, he's very special. He hits the ball long ways and can play some very good defense. So there's definitely a good future coming up through the org right now.
For sure. But obviously, we're not going to sit here and talk about all these guys, all these 17-year-olds. We're not going to be doing that. We want to focus it on you and really just talking about that experience, obviously, outside of just Eugene, Myrtle Beach, South Bend, a season in particular. Obviously, we're going to cover the basics, but I found it the most interesting was the way you flew up the pipeline in 2021. And if you could kind of take us through what was in your mind when you ended up in the season in Iowa. Because I know for a lot of people, I just talked to Matt Mervis about it not too long ago. It's a hell of a thing to do because, you go in from single A where guys are just throwing fastballs, maybe a couple curveballs here and there. Get to double A, you start to see a little bit more velocity, and then boom, triple A, you get these breaking balls, you get these splitters and cutters and all these different aspects. What was that experience like for you? And was it kind of intimidating in a way?
Yeah, it was, I would say, extremely intimidating for me. So I went from a high A straight to uh, Iowa that year,
Mm,
and I remember getting to Iowa, and it was like looking around, and it was like everybody on the field had numerous years of big league time. I mean, the org was absolutely stacked up there that year, so it was extremely intimidating. I remember walking in and not even wanting to talk, just like that intimidating, just trying to stay out of everybody's way, and just take care of business. And this is a crazy story as well. So I remember going in there and just being quiet, sticking myself, and just taking care of business on the field. And didn't play the first couple of days, and then I got so that was back in the National League rules when the pitcher hit.
right.
So as being the extra catcher, I got to usually be the first one off the bench to pinch hit every day. So I go in my first at bat and smoke a single like over the shortstop's head. And that felt so good, was so awesome. You talk about just like a big relief. And then like after that, it all hit me. It's like, hey, this is baseball. But going off of that, I was getting more of those opportunities, and I was just on fire right then. But what happened with that and what was so different was all the guys around you. So in high A, not so much in double A, it starts to transition a little bit, but in high A, it's like you rely on your coaches for everything. If you're feeling something or need something, you go to your coach, you go to your coach. Up there, it was like all the players, like the players were who took care of you. I remember like Nick Martini and Trace Thompson, and then Tony Walters was up there, Taylor Gushu, like all like big league guys who were just kind of, helping me out. And like, hey, think this when you go into, and I had never been a good pinch hitter in my life, hated it,
Mhm.
hated sitting on the bench coming in to hit. And just those guys. And then my number one guy was Tyler Ladendorf, who was actually my road roommate, first one, and had played in the big leagues for a while. And guy just took me under his wing. And he is actually our bench coach in Double A this year, first year in the org. And he was I mean, he took me in. We would go in the cage together. Gave me some little like mental cues about my swing, and they just clicked. I mean, that he had so much feel and just so much experience, and he really just, I mean, the fact that, and that's what I was talking about was different, was that a player would take you and just pour all that info and all that time into you
Mhm.
was really like different for me, and that just, I mean, sent me like over the edge in a good way, and I just started mashing the ball and hitting stuff and doing things I'd never done at the plate, and that was such a game changer for me. And yeah, and it was all coming from, my teammates and just guys that were pouring into me, and that really changed my outlook on the game and how now I go about being a teammate. It's like your coaches are great, of course, but there's just going to be some things and some times where sometimes if a teammate comes up and says something to you or gives you a little tip, that will go a lot further than something maybe a coach isn't quite able to get across or they're not understanding clearly. So that was the biggest thing I learned, and that helped me get over that hump of going up to Iowa.
For sure. And, I think there's so many different ways I think you could have taken that. Some guys get overwhelmed. And I think that's something that's really important is, you ask one question and you get a whole dictionary full of answers about so many different things that you should be doing. Because I'm sure these guys watch you play and think so many different things about what you could be doing, what you should be doing, what you do well. For you, though, if you could, and obviously you named a few of them, but like, biggest mentor to you on any level so far, whether it's a coach or a player, who would you say that's been for you, that's impacted you?
I would definitely have to say Tyler Ladendorf. I mean, For the first time in my career, that was the first time I'd ever felt intimidated somewhere, just, and I've always been like really confident, really humble, and just like able to just attack anything. But when I got up there, I felt like I was overmatched, almost kind of like I didn't belong. But he just took me right in and was like, hey, this is baseball. Do this, and just taught me how to handle the game because the way the game's played and handled in AAA, especially when you have that many veteran big league guys around, is a lot different than what you're used to in
Mm,
the lower levels. So he just took me in, and I mean, he really was truly a mentor. And all baseball stuff aside, he just took me in and just showed me how to handle the game, how to play the game the right way. And that was he had a huge impact on my career and really pours into how I go about business every day and how I handle my teammates.
for sure. Now, I want to get into Tennessee as a whole because I feel like, and I'll say this with my chest, that the Chicago Cubs Tennessee Smokies has the deepest and best catching organization and room than anybody else in the league. Because right now you're sitting with Pablo and Miguel Amaya. What is that like? And do you actively talk with those guys? Because I know, for a lot of different people, and Caleb, we're not asking you to spill the tea if there's beef or anything like that. But for a lot of people, it's really just a competitive nature. But for you guys, all I ever see is guys supporting each other and guys really coming together. What's that room like with you guys?
It's unbelievable. I mean, just like you said, there is not any better guys I could ever want to be around. And I mean, our whole catching room as a whole, spring
Mhm.
training is so enjoyable. I mean, we have 20 guys there that are just absolute dogs, just ready to get after it every day. And we pour into each other. And that's what I was with Pablo all year last year. And with him being a younger guy, and I've been around the game for a few years now. So I feel like he has all the tools in the world, and I was really able to pour in and help him, as like just single little things such as pitch calling or, hey, try this, especially. And then with the new pitch clock rules, really, it makes it tough on a catcher too, trying to get in signs and stuff. So I've just shared like little tips and stuff with him. And it was really always a joy for me to see how excited he would get when he learned something new or figured something out. So it was always, I love Pablo to death. Really neat being around him. And then, I mean, Amaya is phenomenal. I haven't got to be around him too much as like on a team, but
Mhm.
I mean, talk about as far as like tools, like catcher tools, that guy has everything you could ever want. He's phenomenal, and I really have enjoyed being around him. This spring training is the first time I've been around him consistently, and he's a phenomenal dude. And I mean, me, him, and Pablo, it's like just like you said, it's like we're competitive, but we also like compete with each other and pour into each other every day. We're always watching each other and like holding each other or accountable for different things, and if we see something somebody's doing, we tell them, and if it's vice versa, and that's really what I feel like sets us apart is that we're not scared to have those conversations or to I feel like a lot of times if you're competing with somebody, you just kind of stay away from them, don't talk to them. But
Mhm.
when you got guys helping you, just like you're helping them, it just progresses the whole organization. And I mean, at the end goal, we want to go win a championship this year, and that's the things you got to do to go do that. So to me, that's what's more important in the end is pouring into each other because I promise you, if Pablo or Miguel Amaya go to the pros, like I will be almost just as excited to see them in Chicago as I would for myself. So that's just kind of the way I look at it.
100%. And I love that championship attitude you have. I got my guy right here, and I don't get to use this often, so I appreciate you for bringing it up. But this is the end goal. At the end of the day, everybody wants to be like Cole Franklin. South Bend champs had the meaningless plug, shameless. But I had to throw that one out there. I'm hoping I get to see Caleb Knight do the same.
Yeah.
But you talked about the pitch clock, and I think that's something that's very interesting today. If you're, a Chicago fan and you're watching this, we all know Tim Anderson had a lot of words that I'd just rather not repeat on here. And obviously, Manny Machado had an experience with it the other day. All these guys saying it's not fair. All these guys saying there's so many different things that are going on, whether that's from the pitchers to the catchers to the hitters. For you guys, it's a lot different because that was something that was already instilled going into last year in the minors. And that's something that I feel like is so important because, I spoke with Ben Brown about it. He's saying, guys are coming to me asking me about it. Big leaguers are coming to the minor leaguers and talking to us because you guys know more about it than they do. How do you feel about the pitch clock? I'm not trying to get you in trouble here, but how do you genuinely feel about it? And is that something that you're trying to figure out how to master still?
Going back on that picture real quick, I'm the one who accidentally broke the glove off the trophy.
That was you.
That's how, That was accidentally me. Yeah.
That was you.
I
You
I'm
were
the
the
one
one.
who did that and let Franklin take it over.
I saw it on I forget whose live it was. I'm not getting anybody in trouble. So even if I do remember, we're not saying it, but I watched it happen on the live and I was just like, wow, bro. Like it was like, you know what? Fuck it. No one will notice.
Oh yeah. Winning a minor league championship, it's just like for that night nobody cares.
Right.
It's like everything's for you, everybody does what you want. And I mean, that was my third
Mhm.
championship. So I've got to do that 3 times and there's nothing else in the world I would rather do than celebrate with all my boys after playing 150, 160 games, whatever, and winning it all.
And does
But
that really quick, does that do something for you where it's kind of like, I know at the end of the day, it's not about single A or double A. It's about making it and it's about wanting to be the best version of yourself possible. But from an organizational standpoint, I'm not going to, forget it. We can do whatever we want here. It's like the Pirates organization or the Reds organization where it's like every year you're finishing towards the end and the minor league teams aren't getting any better. The Cubs organization, for a while was very dull because obviously everybody's in the show. Now you're starting to see all these minor league teams on the Cubs, whether it's, the South Bend or Iowa or Tennessee, starting to actually win some ball games. Does that uplift you a lot to know that, no matter what level you're going to be at this year, whether that's Myrtle Beach, Bend, Iowa, etc., that it's going to be competitive ball throughout the entire year and it's just not you just trying to, just boost your stats up?
yeah, no, I mean, and I've been lucky enough, so I've won one at every level. Won one in short season, won in low A, and won one in high A. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, well, now that I've won at that level, I can go up, win it.
Right.
I want to win one at every level and then go win one in Chicago. That's my goal.
Right.
But no, winning's contagious. And I think every team I've been on that has won a championship has been different. The camaraderie, just like I was talking about in our catching room, just the way guys push each other, just the expectations you have for each other. And I feel like that's what it takes to giving these guys these experience like PCA and Owen Casey and Yohendrick Pinongo, getting the taste of that at such a young age. I would have done
Mhm.
anything to be able to experience those things when I was 18, 19 years old,
Right.
I was at a junior college in Warner just grinding away, with trying and dreaming of accomplishing those things. And
Right.
that's what a lot of people say. It's a minor league championship, but I genuinely believe that teaching that stuff, learning that stuff, experiencing those feelings, experiencing those nights, and just those relationships that people have even more of a fire for that moving on to the next level, because it's like, that's all I want to do this year. Push everything aside. And I've even noticed like starting a season, say Owen Casey, for example,
Right.
seeing him at the beginning of a season last year and then seeing him at the beginning of the season this year after experiencing that and knowing that, it's like that's kind of where guys want to be. It's not like, hey, my goal is to have a good year. It's
Mhm.
like my goal is to have a good year and win a championship. I
Right.
feel like it just drives even more of a team atmosphere because it's like, and it helps you through those tough times, right? Maybe if you're having a bad month or struggling, it's like, hey, as long as we're winning and as long as we're working together as a team for that goal, that's where I want to be and that's what I want to do. So I think 100% that it will result in good things for the Chicago Cubs, and because these guys learning to win and developing those traits and those habits down here will just, I mean, the only way it'll transition is to higher levels and hopefully in Chicago someday.
Without a doubt. Now, I do want to ask you, you kind of mentioned two of the stars. We got Team Canada over there and Owen Casey, and obviously PCA won the hearts of so many people. I mean, when I tell people the most, I want to say this in the right way because I don't want people to think I'm over here just being biased because it's a heavily biased take. I just want to say it the right way. Me, myself, playing center field my whole life, I have never seen someone who just understands, off the bat speed and just where to be at the right time, like I have with PCA. I mean, this guy, he talks about having kinetic energy and understanding exactly where to be. And it's just like, I was talking to Lance Brozdowski about it, and I was just like, listening to this guy talk, like he can run you around circles, just breaking down the game. So being able to catch for guys like that this season, how excited are you about, just not having to worry about the long ball? Because, I mean, we got guys like Owen and PCA out there. It's going to make your job a hell of a lot easier.
For the past 2 days, I've sat here doing these workouts and like looked out at this team, and it's just like, my goodness, like, and we even talked about it in team meeting today. It's like the like there's no limit to what this team can do. It's truly unbelievable. From guy 1 to guy 30, we are absolutely, loaded with talent and so many guys. And yeah, just I mean, PCA is. I've never seen a better athlete on the field. I mean, that's what I was telling somebody the other day. It's almost like sometimes the game just gets boring to him. Like it's
Mhm.
it's it's so easy, and he just like, hey, I'm gonna see what I can do today. I'm gonna see what I can push today. And watching him go out and just defy odds and do some crazy things. I mean, watch him shag BP. You go watch that guy shag BP, just the stuff he does. You're just like, what? But it's like sitting there watching our team take BP today. It's just I've never been on a team with this much talent, and just everything. Everything we do is just so crisp and just so fun to watch. And man, I can't even tell you how excited I am to be a part of this, and looking forward to this year. It's truly special.
For sure. And we got a couple more for you, man. Got to talk about some Jordan Wicks. I'm really excited to see what he's going to have the potential to do this year. Obviously, I keep hyping it up. I just sound so biased. At this point, I just got to own it. But, looking at this rotation and the bullpen as a whole right now for Tennessee, man, I mean, it is stacked. It is loaded. So is there anybody in particular that you're just excited to work with, whether that's Jordan or not? But I know all the fans are really excited to see Jordan do his thing, especially got one lefty in the rotation right now. I don't know how that's
Yes.
going. It's not. We're losing to the Reds, Caleb. It's not going very well. Right. I mean, we're gonna get there. It's all right. It's very
Yeah.
early. But right now, man, I mean, it's really exciting to see these guys go at it. Who are you most excited to kind of just pick the brain of?
Man, honestly, I mean, my number one guy, and you've spoken about him, but just I've been around Wicks for a whole year now. I've been around Jensen. I've been around pretty much. I mean, the only guy I haven't is Ben Brown, and
Mhm.
that's kind of the guy I've got little glimpses of in spring training. Got to catch him a couple times here and there, but that is the guy I most. I mean, that guy is a competitor now, and when he
Greatest guy,
gets,
I promise you, greatest
yeah,
guy you'll ever meet.
yeah, greatest guy, and when he gets on the mound, like he demands perfection. And
Mhm.
I had just he threw a bullpen today, and I was watching. And I'm just like, dude, that guy. And it's the same thing like we were talking about the catchers. These guys push each other. When pitchers sit there and see him doing that on the bullpen, they're like, okay, I'm gonna go up there. I'm gonna do the same thing. And it's crazy to look at, crazy to watch. But that's one of the guys I'm most excited to be around. And I mean, that guy's stuff is elite and so fun to watch, and really just looking forward to being around him and getting to catch him some, and understand what his ideas and what his thoughts are, especially coming from a different order, how he wants to attack hitters. Because as a catcher, that's what I love. I feel like it's one of my strongest traits on the field is game calling, and is managing the pitchers and everything. So he's a guy I really am excited to learn, and what he wants to bring to the table and how to attack guys.
Without a doubt. And I think the thing about Ben that's just so interesting to me is, and just sitting down and talking to him. I mean, he can go on like you said, like he loves that stuff. You love listening. He loves talking in the best way though. Like he's not talking about
Hmm.
nothing. You hear this guy talk about things he wants to work on, things he wants to get better at. And I think that's really the conversation right there where the relationship actually matters. It's two guys who actually one wants to learn and one wants, obviously, like you said, to have perfection. So to have you like that, man, I mean, it's still such a rare commodity when you have a catcher who's actually perfecting his craft at the catching position. So many guys nowadays, you know how it is nowadays. Guys like Yachty are praised for their defense, and then offensively, it's just not quite there, but they end up being Hall of Famers, and you just don't really see that in today's age. You got the Adley Richardsons of the world who just rake, and he frames very well too. I'm not gonna say he doesn't, but everyone's focusing on the bat, and I think you having that extra tool in your bag sets you away from everybody else. But our last one, man, going into this season, I know it kicks off tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. What is your goal? Obviously, the goal at the end of the day is always I want to be at the show. But what's something you wanted to perfect going into the season that's going to put you a step ahead of everybody else?
Man, I mean, from on the like it's funny because we just kind of talked about it, but on the field, but the one thing I've wanted to perfect this year is just hitting for more power, driving the ball
Mm.
more, hitting more homers. I mean, that's a thing. I mean, throughout my whole career, I've never been too big of a power guy, but made some adjustments to the swing this year, and I really, really am feeling good about that. So that's just something I really, really been focusing on a lot this year that I want to go out and perfect on the field. But the number one important thing to me is just showing up every single day and being the absolute best teammate I can and helping whoever, whenever, in any way I can. And I feel like I really take pride in being that guy that I want guys to feel like they can go to no matter how good or how bad they may be doing at that time or how bad they're struggling. I want to be, I mean, as one of the older guys, I want to be like the leader for the guys and just somebody they can come to and just the best teammate I can be. So that's hands down the most important thing to me. And that's just what I look forward to every day is just being there for those guys and helping lead them in any way that I can.
Without a doubt, man. I mean, we're going to wish you luck the entire way. Really quick before we get you out of here, if there's anything you wanted to plug, whether it's your social media or anything you got going on, please just let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah. Instagram, Twitter is at Caleb Knight 13. Would love a follow. Anything. I'm pretty active on social media. So yeah, anything y'all ever want or any kind of feedback would be great. Love to hear from the fans and stuff. Usually pretty interactive. Love to talk to people, meet new people. So yeah, I appreciate y'all getting on here and listening.
Without a doubt. Caleb, thank you for coming on the show today, brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. Enjoyed it.
Without a doubt. That was Caleb Knight, obviously from the Chicago Cubs. We appreciate him coming on every single day. You can catch him all year long unless he ends up in Iowa, which we're banking on because Caleb's that guy. We know he is him. We're really excited about it. Again, this is Mike Hughes from Mike on the Mic. You can follow me at theshy.kid everywhere you are listening to the All Sports, All Plays Network.